The subject is, as you know, it's about preparing. You two, I want to see you. I don't want to not to see you. The preparation of Ramadan, and how the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and his companions approached the month of Ramadan. I will not go into the details that everybody knows, because you know it, and it is a duty for every Muslim to enlighten himself and learn. And nowadays with the media, you can get the best scholars talking about the month of Ramadan, the details of Ramadan, what to do, what not to do in Ramadan. The purpose of this meeting basically to share how were things at that time and how they behaved as a behavioral matter. Recently, or for the last several 10, 20 years or more, we have seen and observed that Ramadan is becoming more commercialized than being the spiritual month. You notice now when you go to supermarkets and vendors are stocking their products, and there is a fight for shelf space where big companies are fighting to sell as much goods, and it's as if there's a pandemic and the supermarkets and the shops are going to close and people are going to starve. So then you see advertising, special food Ramadan and this for Ramadan and special, kitchen items for Ramadan. And then the attack comes from the media also, at least on our side, the local television and the Arabic channels, the Ramadan series of drama, and they only broadcast in the month of Ramadan. And they are paid a very high premium in having 30, episodes of a drama in Ramadan, because people will spend the night watching television and then there is a challenge. So it is total distraction and destruction at the same time from what the purpose of Ramadan is and what is Ramadan supposed to do and what kind of changes should take place. So what I will review with you here, some pointers that will remind you where Ramadan should be and where it's what the approach is, in order for you and me to be protected from, diverting to where everybody else is going to Ramadan. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, Al-Ubadah al-Musam radiallahu anhu, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, the first thing is he greets everybody that Ramadan is coming. قال أتاكم, Ramadan has come to you, it is the month of blessing. And the blessing of Allah will cover everybody around you. And Allah will remove your sins. And Allah will see how you compete against each other towards pleasing Allah Almighty. So it's just like a race to who performs the best. And Allah yubahi bikum al-malaika, shows the angels how the worshippers are excelling to please Allah Almighty in their actions. So the look of Ramadan is basically, it's a challenge, it's a race. You challenging everybody else in trying to please Allah Almighty. How was the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ preparing for Ramadan? Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu said, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was the most generous, and the most generosity is in the month of Ramadan, especially when he met Jibreel alayhi salam. And there Jibreel used to meet him every night of Ramadan, and they used to review the memorization of the Quran. Umar ibn Khattab, he is the one who lit the mosques in the month of Ramadan. He's the one who brought up the lanterns, and mosques had lights for people to pray Taraweeh in the month of Ramadan. And he is the called upon the people to Salat Taraweeh, to pray it all together in Jama'ah in the mosque. So the light and in the mosque. That is why Ali bin Abi Talib, on the first night of Ramadan, as he walked out, he saw the mosques, they had the lanterns shining and people praying, and Quran is being read. He said, Nawwallahu laka ibn al-Khattab, may Allah grant you the light that you, Ibn al-Khattab, had given us. May Allah put the light in your grave, the same way you put the light and you made our mosques for us the night we can pray together. At that time, an incident happened. A maid was hired for a Muslim family. So when Ramadan came, she saw them preparing food. She said to them, what are you doing? They said, we are preparing to fast the month of Ramadan. She said to them, do you only fast in the month of Ramadan? I used to work for people, the whole year to them is Ramadan. Send me back to them. I don't want to be in your place. This means shows you that people not only were fasting Ramadan, they used to fast as the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad, Mondays and Thursdays, all the 3 days of Ayyam al-Bir, the middle of the, and other. So it was not the norm that fasting only Ramadan. It became abnormal to her. She thought that this home, they are not good Muslims. She might as well go to people, to them fasting is part of their daily life. عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال, the first night of the month of Ramadan, the devils are changed, and the jinn, and the doors of hellfire are closed, and the doors of heaven are open, and every door is asking, oh, you wish to do the well or to do the good, go ahead and do the good, and those who want to do evil, they are blocked up from doing any evil actions. They are put down in that one. And that is every night. So once you know and you visualize that the doors of heaven are open every night, so this gives you the opportunity to push yourself to enter from any of these doors. And the doors of hellfire are also closed. And the devils are chained. Therefore, see how much Allah had given you an opportunity that is wide open for you to take advantage of Ramadan. Ramadan is an opportunity that happens once a year. And maybe next Ramadan, you and I might not be here. Therefore, we have to remind, and also we start remembering some of our loved ones who were among us last year. They are not here this year. So therefore, Imam Muhammad al-Ghazali, Sheikh Muhammad al-Ghazali, he said, it is wrong to think that Ramadan is preparation for meals and food and inviting people over food. This month is the month you focus on reaching out to Allah Almighty and doing all what you do to please Allah Almighty and understanding Quran, reading and understanding Quran. Because Quran will lead you to escalate and elevate in your grade in heaven. And it is a race towards doing good. And in it, you know, the challenge among all of the Muslims to please Allah, so it's a race among each other to please Allah Almighty. Factors that should be pointed out before Ramadan for every individual. First of all, if any one of us, and all of us, we do have certain sins or violations that we know that angers Allah Almighty. First of all, to stop doing it and to confess to Allah Almighty about you're sorry that you're doing that is something that is wrong, and asking Allah Almighty that you repent and you will not do it again. This will elevate your spiritual level to change. And this will get you towards a point where you will have tears coming from your eyes because of the sense of guilt of how you violated Allah Almighty, and it is time to change yourself. Therefore, your heart would awaken and would get affected in the month of Ramadan. Therefore, Ramadan has to start not like a calendar day. First day of Ramadan, everybody is fasting. It's not the issue of fasting. It is how you enter in the month of Ramadan. Maybe some of you, I mentioned to you before, at home, my wife gets a gift from a friend of hers, and I saw it, I see it every year. 5 months ago. It's a package, it has dates, it has, sweets and nuts and honey and tea and all these things. And with it says, Mubarak Ramadan. 6 months prior to the month of Ramadan. She sends gifts to her friends, greeting them on to the month of Ramadan. This is the type of, and this is basically what the companions of the Prophet Muhammad had. 6 months prior to Ramadan, they asked Allah Almighty to give them the chance to live and to perform in the month of Ramadan. And 6 months after Ramadan, they asked Allah Almighty to accept their fasting in the month of Ramadan. So as they enter the month of Ramadan, it's just like a race. If you have a warm-up and you've trained yourself, like, these Olympic Games, they go to some training camp before the sports, where they are set on a proper diet and sleeping time and daily exercise, because once the competition starts, he is ready to go. Ramadan is the same thing, the month of Sha'ban, and usual, you know about it, the Prophet Muhammad used to fast most of the month of Sha'ban. It is called the month of Quran, the month when you walk in a Muslim community at that time, everybody has his Quran, whether in the marketplace or riding on his camel or he's fishing or whatever, reading Quran, because it's the month of Ramadan, the month of Sha'ban, and also fasting to be prepared for the month of Ramadan. So once they enter the month of Ramadan, they are ready, their performance is ready, they are far ahead of everyone else. And at the same time, the month of Sha'ban, they have stopped themselves from disobeying Allah in certain matters, whether it is behavioral or anything else. So once he gets into the month of Ramadan, he is ready to race. Not with a cold, just with a cold engine like everybody else. The second thing is the dua. It is extremely important that you ask Allah all the time to let you the opportunity to live the month of Ramadan. The persistence, not only once Allah let me live the month of Ramadan. No, you keep on repeating all the time. Allahumma ballighni Ramadan. Oh Allah, make me among the winners of Ramadan. Oh Allah, let my performance be Ramadan better than any year before. Oh Allah, give me the energy and the power and the persistence that this Ramadan is better than all the Ramadan. Oh Allah, and what happens if you and I were not able to live the Ramadan? At least we are granted the reward for what we wanted to do by this intention. روي عن أنس بن مالك رضي الله عنه كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا دخل رجب, when the month of Rajab gets in, the Prophet Muhammad صلى الله عليه وسلم, اللهم بارك لنا في رجب وشعبان وبلغنا رمضان. Oh Allah, bless us in the month of Rajab and Sha'ban and give us the opportunity. This means what? 3 months of training or 2 months training before the month of Ramadan. It's not the calendar day as we nowadays say. Ramadan is 2 weeks from now, okay, the first day of Ramadan is my calendar. No, it's ahead of time. That's why their performance was different, the change in their attitude, in their behavior, and their faith was different, because there is something inside the individual asking Allah Almighty for the change. Also the Salaf Salih, they used to ask Allah Almighty to grant them to live in Ramadan and ask Allah to accept their fasting in Ramadan. And that is why when you see the Hilal of Ramadan, as the Prophet Muhammad told us when we see the crescent of Ramadan, Allahumma ahillu alayna bil-amn wal-iman wal-salamati wal-islam wal-tawfiq lima tuhib wa tarda Rabbi wa Rabbuka Allah. Oh Allah Almighty, this Hilal that we see, give us the peace and prosperity and faith and Islam, and grant us the opportunity to do what you love and to be pleased with us, Almighty. And also they would say, Oh Allah, Allahumma arzuqna umran madida wa qawlan sadida wa amalan salihan kathira, Allahumma zillana al-atiyya wa. In other words, oh Allah Almighty, give us the life and the age to be alive in the month of Ramadan, and to say what is right in the month of Ramadan, and to do what is right in the Ramadan. Oh Allah, give us the most reward in our month of Ramadan. Oh Allah, correct our intentions in the month of Ramadan. Imam al-Nawawi, in his book Kitab al-Adhkar, he said it is important that anyone who is blessed by Allah Almighty, or that Allah Almighty had taken away something evil was supposed to be to reach him or protecting him from it, is to perform sujood thanking Allah Almighty, and to thank Allah Almighty and praise Allah Almighty for giving him the opportunity to do that good deed itself. And one of the biggest lessons is that Allah gives you the opportunity to obey Allah Almighty. So in the month of Ramadan, it is that opportunity from Allah that has given you and me. Therefore, we should be thankful to Allah Almighty that He has given us that opportunity. And that blessing requires thanking from Allah. And in the Quran, in Surah Ibrahim, verse number 7, وَإِذْ تَأَذَّنَ رَبُّكُمْ لَئِنْ شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ وَلَئِنْ كَفَرْتُمْ إِنَّ عَذَابِي لَشَدِيدٌ. In more or less the meaning that when you ask Allah, when you thank Allah Almighty, Allah will give you more. And if you disobey Allah and you neglect the blessings of Allah, the punishment of Allah is great. It is appointed and mentioned that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ used to greet his companions as the month of Ramadan happens. And عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال وهو يبشر أصحابه, he used to greet all of his companions and go to them. He says, Ramadan has come to you. Allah has written upon us to fast, and in it the doors of heaven are open, and the doors of hellfire are closed, and the devils are chained, and in it there is a night that is worth of 1,000 months, that is Laylatul Qadr. Whoever misses out, he has missed a lot, taking the opportunity. So what the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ says, and what we should do basically, once you know Ramadan is there, you have to greet everybody around you. So once you imagine when the Muslim community, everybody greets everybody else about the month of Ramadan, there's a certain mood and vibration and energy in the surrounding communities of Muslims, of the joy of Ramadan that is there. This elevates the enthusiasm with people, and it reflects on their response on the month of Ramadan, and their performance and the worship in the month of Ramadan. The sense of joy, of greeting, and the happiness about this month. That's what the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. And also, Sahaba and Tabi'in used to do the same thing, that they are happy with the month of Ramadan, and about once they receive the news about the month of Ramadan. Another point that is important, that you should have a program set in your mind what you want to do in the month of Ramadan. Here are a few pointers. First of all, you should know which mosque you plan to pray in. You decide the mosque, you will pray Tarawih in this mosque or Fajr or something. You have that mosque in mind and you have set it. Second thing, your daily reading of Quran, what time will it be? You set, you allocate a time for it. These should be prepared before the month of Ramadan. 3. The lectures that you're going, if there are lectures in the mosque, where they are going to be, and if they are before the month of Ramadan, you should attend in order to increase your knowledge. And also is that you should from now on listen to lectures, seminars about the month of Ramadan and the importance of fasting. There's plenty of them in your car. You could listen just to increase your momentum about the month of Ramadan. Also, on a family basis, and I've seen this also here in Kuwait, and I know people, a lot of families do that. Prior to iftar time, you see the wife or the father and his wife with him and the children in the car, driving around in areas where there are bachelors who are, and they have already with them bags of food prepared with maybe juice and some basic items. And they teach their children as they stop the car, and in the car they start giving these men, to us it may sound simple, but to their children it gives the month a certain flavor, and also it builds them, inside them, the love of giving. And seeing, the fathers driving the car or the mother, and they are there, and they have prepared at home these meals, so they are excited to give. And I've seen it, some children are at the age of 3 or 4 being excited about handing out these paper bags of whatever they prepared at home for people who need them. Another point is that if there is an opportunity if some mosques, they have iftar gathering together, so to share the food with them or send a small dish to the neighbor for them to have iftar. Another aspect, if your mosque around you requires certain cleaning or certain things are neglected in the mosque, I know we ourselves, we tend to put it upon the 2 or 3 individuals who was out of keep, but sometimes they cannot keep up, or they cannot for one reason. It doesn't hurt for one of us to see, for example, you walk in the mosque and you see these Qur'ans are scattered everywhere, or there are no tissue boxes, or there is no perfume, or in the toilet area there are no paper, nothing. It doesn't hurt to bring something. This is also part of the activity in the month of Ramadan and reward. And also especially in the musalla of the women. It is neglected by most of the mosques because the cleaners are men, so they rarely go inside. So the sisters, when they see that place is not clean, by cleaning it and putting tissue paper and other things, this is something that you are rewarded on. So have it in your mind. Also a schedule for family visits. This has to be, all of these issues you have to get them settled before you enter the month of Ramadan. Otherwise you will lose your time and you haven't focused on anything. Who you want to visit, whom you want to greet, and especially distant, how you're going to communicate with them, have a list ready, and setting a time, at least, even if you visit people, don't waste your time, 15 minutes and then go visit other people in order to give people the chance to worship the month of Ramadan. Umrah, I know it might be expensive. The rates are unbelievable because Saudi Arabia have opened the visas wide open, so the demand is more than the supply. Okay, so I cannot make a Umrah. Fine. I cannot afford to make a Umrah. Fine. Nowadays, they send, you have a question, you want to say something? You raise your hand. Nowadays, there are people go to Umrah on the bus. And the trip, I'm giving you an example, and the trip in the bus costs around 120 dinars. I'm not saying you go. If you have done Umrah before, it is better to help someone who has not gone to Umrah and help them go to Umrah. And they get a lot of people, these Hajj and Umrah tours, of people who have difficulty financially and they've never been to Umrah before. So what you do is basically you can share مثلا 5 KD, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. You can get one person to go and perform Umrah, and therefore you are rewarded. And as you know the hadith عن جابر رضي الله عنه that the Prophet Muhammad صلى الله عليه وسلم said, Umrah في Ramadan تعدل حجة or حجة معي. Whoever performs Umrah in Ramadan is like Hajj with the Prophet Muhammad صلى الله عليه وسلم. So rather than just saying I cannot go, support someone who needs to go. You don't have to find this individual. Go to this Umrah. Tell him, here is 20 dinars. I will pay for someone who cannot afford to go. He is short in the amount and they will do it for you. Also, having the sincere intention that you utilize all of your time in Ramadan in doing good. If you are truthful to Allah, Allah will help you and will make it easy for you to find ways and means of doing good in the month of Ramadan. And the ayah of the Quran in Surah Muhammad verse 21, فَلَوْ صَدَقُوا اللَّهَ لَكَانَ خَيْرًا لَهُمْ. If they are sincere to Allah, it is better for them once you're sincere to Allah. So the minute, as we mentioned now, as I'm telling you, you see a lot of niyyahs are crowding up in your mind. And even if you cannot do some of them, Allah will reward you because you already have registered in your mind to do it. So the more you get thoughts about doing good, keep them in your mind and think of ways and means of doing good. Inshallah, you can do them. And if not, you are rewarded for them. So the mood of your mind is basically to collect and things of ways and means to do good, and you will be rewarded by Allah Almighty. The spiritual behavior by reading books and listening to lectures about fasting and do and don'ts in fasting. You prepare yourself to enter Ramadan in a proper manner. This way you are motivated highly, and as you enter the month of Ramadan, you become just like, as the author has said here, it's just like the dry land that is waiting for rain to come. It immediately takes rain inside it because it is thirsty and it wants to grab every opportunity. So the more you learn and listen about Ramadan before the month of Ramadan, the more you become hungry for the month of Ramadan, the more you can perform and give in the month of Ramadan. The last point, making sure the proper family contact and the goodwill towards your parents, your relatives, those married married people associated with your families, the wife and children, in the way you deal with them, and also in the society and the community that you live with, that you live among them. By seeing your behavior and your good behavior, this will reflect on others, and therefore it will cover the entire community. أقول ما تسمعون. أسأل الله عز وجل, I ask Allah Almighty in this brief reminder about the month of Ramadan to bless us and accept our Ramadan. اللهم اغفر لنا ما قدمنا وما أخرنا وما أسررنا وما أعلنا. اللهم تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. اللهم اغفر لنا ولوالدينا ومن له حق علينا وتجاوز عنا. اللهم بلغنا رمضان، اللهم بلغنا رمضان، اللهم بلغنا رمضان واجعلنا من الفائزين وعتقاء شانك الكريم يا رب العالمين. واصلح أحوالنا وأزواجنا وذرياتنا وجميع المسلمين يا رب العالمين. وصل اللهم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. جزاكم الله خير brothers and sisters. Thank you for listening.